And so, if you've been watching at all the developments of the news and what's happening, there's a cowardice, a fear that is beginning to grip people all over the place. And of course, people that are in the religious sphere only, that they're exclusively, let's face it, just talking to their friends and writing and commenting on culture, religious themes. They're a little bit insulated from the front lines. But if you go towards the sound of the guns, where the media is, where journalists are, where you could get deplatformed, where you make a living as a media personality, where you have 100,000 to 500,000 followers and an organization. What it does is it puts a Stalin-esque chill in the atmosphere, so you go boldly into some subjects but won't go into others. Meanwhile, I'm finding myself in some curious conversations, doing a forensic deep dive on things which I'm not so sure are the frontline issues, the nature of what prophecies, what prophets are saying right now, and how damaging is it to the body of Christ to have division among the prophets and people confused, or questions about patriotism and going too far with nationalism, which. So what you're seeing there is you're seeing now, my concern is that the positioning of the religious sphere trying to back up from the mud splatter of the real battle on the front lines. But thank God for guys like Tucker Carlson, who I think, and guys like him, when Antifa showed up at his house twice to harass him, and a New York Times journalist said he was going to out his new address so Antifa could go back and harass him and his wife and children. I think it pushes a guy like him over the edge. By the way, he's very wealthy. Not to mention, I was going to say he's smart, but not to mention he's also very wealthy. He owns some media platforms in digital space. So, and he's got a great team of people working with him. But I want you to see, Adam Schiffler. What kills me with the Democrats is they have so zero credibility. Ocasio-Cortez is sitting there saying that Ted Cruz threatened her life. Adam Shapeshifter, who lied for a whole year saying we've got the evidence, we got the smoking gun, we've got it in Russia, and they have no accountability because there is no power that we have to hold them to accountability. So we're kind of stuck. We're like glue with super glue with our butts into a theater where we have to watch whatever's in front of us because the whole news cycle, the whole entertainment cycle, the whole world around us is social media is controlled by a propaganda machine. So we're stuck commenting on what they put in front of us. But guys like Schiff shouldn't even be, he should be drummed out of Washington and along with Ortiz and put into kind of like an Oprah Winfrey weekend program for self-help so that they could get in touch with their feelings or something. But I want you to watch this because I have to watch it and the whole world has to watch it. This is Adam Schiff commenting on January 6th, that great piece of theater that is coming out now.
World wars, a Great Depression, pandemics, McCarthyism, and now a Trumpist and white nationalist insurrection.
White nationalist insurrection. Again, it was awful. It was not that. But you've got to ask yourself, why are they claiming that it was that? Think about it. You know the answer. Everyone knows the answer. Though almost everyone is too cowardly at this point to say it out loud. And the answer is this. They're saying that despite the fact they know it isn't true, so they can lump you in with the people who broke into the Capitol and punish you for crimes you did not commit and never supported.
There it is.
If what happened on January 6th was a riot, and it was, then we can arrest the rioters and punish them, and we should.
Yeah, and find out who was behind it.
What happened on January 6th was an insurrection, however. If it was a failed revolution, an attempted coup, then it's something else entirely. If it's that, then we need a military response. We need a new war against our own population. And not surprisingly, that's exactly what they're calling for.
They're calling for, this is Pentagon knuckleheads now.
Immediately after 9/11.
They're likening us to like an Al-Qaeda.
In Afghanistan. And the thrust of our campaign there was, yes, to hunt down Al-Qaeda, but primarily to remove the supportive environment in which they were able.
Oh, like Fox News.
Taliban. And I think that is the heart of what we need to deal with here. Hunting down people who are criminals.
Ooh.
Hunt them down like Al-Qaeda. And to be completely clear, we're not overstating this. We are not hysterical. We're just close listeners. By them, he means Americans who were nowhere near the Capitol on January 6th, had no role in what happened that day, and didn't support it. That's the assessment from a former CIA official who spent years hunting al-Qaeda in the Middle East. No one in Washington appears to think this kind of talk is alarming in a formerly peaceful republic like ours. Just today, Senator Mitch McConnell, the leader, sent out a tweet blasting Vladimir Putin for some misdeed or other. In the U.S. Senate, Russia is still the real threat. Not quite as upset about China somehow. But what McConnell didn't mention, and almost never does, are his own voters, the ones now being reclassified as al-Qaeda terrorists and treated accordingly. On Monday, the Washington Examiner, which claims to be a right-of-center publication, whatever that means at this point, ran a piece by a former CIA officer called Kevin Carroll. According to Kevin Carroll, quote, "We saw 5 dead in the January 6th attempted coup d'etat." Now, Carroll didn't explain who exactly
That's a lie, by the way.
People were or how exactly they died.
Exactly.
It would be nice to know that, but facts were not the point. The point was that this was an attempted coup d'etat, and the U.S. government needs to act accordingly. Again, we are quoting here. Quote, "We defeated al-Qaeda and can do the same thing."
See, they want to lump Christians with al-Qaeda. You get the game the devil's playing?
If we take similar hard measures against the enemy within. Treating Americans like al-Qaeda, the enemy within. Apparently, that's the new conservative position on the riots of January 6th. And why wouldn't it be the position of everyone in this country? Because that's the history they are writing. And we're letting them. But we should be prepared for the consequences of that history.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Tucker. Appreciate that. All right, so here's what I want to say. This is not all doom and gloom, but I just want you to have this perspective as to what's going on out there. They want to make January 6th an insurrection. It wasn't. But they gave away, and they give away too much information. We did a broadcast on Saturday following Bannon's War Room on Real Voice America. I think it's the 4th segment. If you can download the app, Real America's Voice, I think it is. And you want to get the 4th segment for what we did Saturday. But here's the deal. An article comes out in Time Magazine fully exposing the manipulation of the left. And the author, I think it was Molly something or other, went way too far. Actually, in kind of like the way that it happens when you're living in your own bubble, in your own world, and everyone around you is like anti-Trump and like thinks like these people where, you know, if you're an evangelical, you're a religious fundamentalist like Al-Qaeda. And so in that bizarre world of zombified thinking, they celebrate a steal. They expose the manipulation of powerful entities and conspiracies. They're talking about QAnon. On one hand, they expose their own conspiracy, which was how they conspired together to deprive Donald Trump of a victory on November 3rd. But what they did, and it's a huge mistake. Listen to this. This is like breaking news. Whoops. They said they had 400 uprisings. You saw 160 people going on the Capitol, poorly executed. I still say, but I'll get dinged on Facebook if I say what I really think. I still say I want to know everything about everybody that they have pictures of. I want a visual, forensic on who these people are, because I believe there were activists mingled among those dumb people that went into the building. However, be that as it may, the reality is the article in Time Magazine revealed 400 incidents were ready to go. Remember how they had like hundreds of policemen hospitalized? Why are they talking about that incident that happened down there at the Capitol on the 6th, and they're ignoring the 600 incidents that happened over 4 months of distress? But the mistake they made, they said they had 400 uprisings, riots, protests. And you know how they do that during the summer of love. And they were ready to go, but they didn't flip the switch. They held them back because they saw that the Trump victory wasn't going to happen, and they didn't need to, as they would say, have to go public to deal with the coup. They were going to call it a coup. They labeled it a coup. Everything's a coup when it comes to opposition for the Democrats, because the Democrats aren't interested in the truth. They're interested in power. And for all the people that are praying for a great awakening for American revival, let me remind you of a verse that's going to happen in the midst of this awakening. That according to the Apostle Paul, evil men in the last days shall wax worse and worse, being deceived and deceiving others. In other words, you can't pray naively for a wholesale transformation of American culture by a sweeping move of God, because you're entering into not prophetic thinking, but magical thinking. And magical thinking is the devil's playground. We want prophetic thinking. Evil men are going to wax worse and worse. That means you're going to have characters who are deceived and are deceiving others. And they're all over media and politics. They're hollowed out souls. They've sold themselves to the devil, and some of them actually have a cauterized conscience, which means they have reprobate minds. They cannot see with moral clarity. And it's not just Democrats, it's Republicans also. They can't. They're blinded. Now, there are those that are blinded by the devil, that the veil can be torn, and there are those that are simply deceived and deceiving others. And I believe there are many of those that have actually crossed the line. I think the fear of the Lord is you could go too far. And I think many of them, many people on the earth right now have actually gone too far. And so the fear of the Lord would have us know that there's going to be entrenched opposition that's going to lie about you anyway. Remember, it was the purest church in the world in Rome when Nero sent them into the arena. So it's not like you should blame anybody for giving us a bad reputation. I hate it when I hear Christians go down that road, because the devil's going to give you a bad reputation by simply lying about you. So it doesn't, there's nothing you could do. Jesus had a bad reputation, by the way. Did you know that? Jesus had a terrible reputation. But it was a terrible reputation with half the mob that wanted him crucified because they were listening to the fake news of the Pharisees. But what I want you to catch is this. The good news is that in America you could still say these things. The good news is I'm talking to you right now. It's not over yet. The good news is if we have a courageous, apostolic, evangelistic generation that knows, like Mario Murillo, my buddy, that knows how to swing towards hitting the harvest and preaching the gospel, and doesn't get caught up in the psychodrama of politics, but boom, can swing around and see with 2020 clarity what's happening in the psychodrama of psychological operations and manipulation in media. That's a powerful 1-2 punch, because it sees clearly and speaks clearly to what's going on in the world right now, and then swings around to the harvest. I'm telling you, most of the church is divided into two groups. There are culture warriors obsessed with what's going on in the battle, and then there's the pure spirit people who are just out there, don't want to get involved with politics, and think that. And by the way, they're both legitimate positions. I don't have the authority to comment on the legitimacy of anybody's calling, but I'm saying the division is there. There are those people that see the battle in the culture, and they see it 100%, and there are those that don't see it, but they're 100% over there in total dedication to Jesus and thinking that that's the solution. We really are going to see some great awakening happen when the two are fused together, that you can see clearly what the devil's game is in media, in government, what's happening with 50 of these executive orders, where the Marxists are going, what's happening. You can watch the Super Bowl and do an exegete in your head. You could see what the culture game is that's going on there. You could see in the commercials, it's kind of like doing a temperature gauge of what's going on. All right, I got to hop up. Here's the good news. Donald Trump is part of this great awakening. All the prayers you prayed for him, I'm still 100% committed to the fact that I believe God wanted that man to be president. I just never went as far as to say he was going to be, and that's why I did a Washington $500,000 prayer rally, and that's why I wrote a 175-page book, because of anxiety that the tipping point, we hadn't prevailed somehow. I didn't feel like we had a prevailing judgment for the saving of the nation, and I realized to a great extent why. Because half the country, whether you think Trump the election was stolen or not, you got to know it was close enough so that half the country is is not for him. They're under the propaganda of the ministry. They drink in the Kool-Aid. So therefore, I believe God is doing something to shake America and perhaps to break America, to make America. To make America great again, we have to break America. And so what we have to do is we have to create consequences. Right now, the axe is being laid to the root of the tree. The root's being exposed, and the fruit is being exposed. And what you're seeing is people that see the fruit but are blinded to what they're getting. But I believe that they're going to find out that what they're getting is something they really don't like. More and more libertarians and independents are freaking out over the loss of freedoms and the draconian Leninist cancel culture, the wiping out of your business, the attack on Mike Lindell and My Pillow, which I want to get a hold of him for an interview, by the way, but I wanted to let everybody else get their interviews first because I want to talk to him, and I did. I talked with a group of CEOs about how to help rescue him from the mauling that he's going under in terms of like Bed Bath & Beyond and Kohl's and these companies. And I could list them, and there's never a consequence, and that's our fault. In the left, you step out of line with one syllable on transgender, one syllable on gay marriage, and boom, boom, they just send down you like piranhas. But in our world, with 30, 40 million of us, we have no consequences. They can walk right over you. And I don't think that's biblical. I don't think that's shrewd. I don't think that even pleases God. I think we naively think that we're being really spiritual, turning the other cheek. We're not understanding the context of how Christians actually are authorized to become salt in the culture and to create clear boundaries and consequences and lines and moral arguments. But I'm going to have to hop off the call. I'm telling you, Donald Trump's part of this because he's going to be doing those rallies. He's going to be doing meetings. And I believe we're going to see great awakeners rise up in those meetings. They're going to speak to the crowds. You don't need a long time, by the way. I think Peter's sermon in the Book of Acts was less than like 7 minutes, 5 minutes. It's like a small YouTube. But boom, the hearts of people were pierced. These 35 to 40 million brokenhearted, intimidated, labeled as Al-Qaeda, innocent American citizens, are not going to go quietly into the night. There's going to be consequences and pushback for the totalitarian takeover of government and the control of the oligarchs trying to destroy your life. There is already consequences, but it hasn't been organized because we have no organization. We got a bunch of we have a bunch of people with separate entities, but there's no collective power. There's no unifying locking of shields in the arena with Maximus in Rome, as you remember in the movie Gladiator. But I'm telling you, those populist meetings are going to happen. The left can't stop them, and it's going to be great awakening meetings. The rallies will become revivals. Now, that's what I believe, and Donald Trump is going to be an instrument in the, like Samson. He is going to shake the pillars of his enemies. You watch all those prayers that you're praying for divine justice and stuff. God's going to answer in redemptive ways. You want to see, I'm reading these prophets, they're just off about, judgment's going to come on those people that stole the election. But no, that's not the way it works. Come on, man, wake up, study your Christian history. The judgment of God is going to be on the devil, not on the people. And what happens to the devil is he loses a couple of kingpins, he loses some Sauls, they become Pauls, and you start seeing that we go plunder hell by bringing souls into the kingdom of heaven. And we do damage these institutionally corrupt places by knocking them down and rebuilding on a righteous foundation. And that, I think, is what God's doing. That's what I mean by the breaking of America is the making of America. And the awakening of America is right in the middle of it. Share this broadcast, will you please? Because you got to be excited. You have to be agitated to be, in a sense, if you're going to be awakened, you have to be startled out of your slumbering state of mind. And I am every day as I see what is coming in this cancel culture. Lou Dobbs got canceled by Fox, and he was their most popular show. Lou Dobbs canceled. And I tried to play it for you today, and they took it off of YouTube. I couldn't even get the show for it. I want you to see the show that knocked him out and that made them go, oh, we gotta end this. But for another time, I'm off to a Zoom call, and I'm praying that you have a good day. Bless you. Thanks for joining me on this broadcast. And You know, we could stay connected together. If you subscribe, you're going to be updated on the next broadcast that comes out, and you could like this right here, and we could actually start to create a movement of connected people.